Welcome back to Forties Unfiltered. Get in, friend, because 'tis the season. And what the heck do I even mean by the season? It is eclipse season. And for those of you that are not astrology literate, eclipses are a time of great beginnings and great endings. They're a time of change. They are a time of destiny. They are a time of pivotal shifts that happen and occur in our lives. It's funny because this morning as I was driving, I was thinking to myself, how many people get up and go about their days during eclipse season that don't know, understand, or have any idea of what astrology is or how the astrological energies work or affect us. And so it could be times like this where it feels like things in our lives are shifting or changing, or where we feel like we're on the precipice of something new, or we feel like there's breakthrough energy, or like something is happening, but you can't quite put your finger on it. What I find is that a lot of times in these really pivotal moments that there is definitely a correlation to something big and major that is happening within our sky. So if this is your first time ever seeing me, my name is Addie and I am a student astrologer. I've been studying astrology seriously for about 3.5 years now. I'm currently enrolled in Adam Ellen Bass Nightlight Astrology's Year 1 astrology course. And I came to the study of astrology because of all of the shifts and the things that were taking place in my life. And I've always sort of enjoyed the stars and horoscopes and things like that. But I got really serious about this study when I started to realize that there was a lot of things that were coinciding with astrology that were happening in my current circumstances and in my current relationship. And it made me get really very serious about studying astrology and the psychology of it all, and how the astrological energy does affect us as human beings here in this earthly plane. That being said, I think there's something really important about getting ready to turn the chapter. And when I say turn the chapter, for me at this particular point in life, it's not just the fact that I'm getting ready to turn 40, although I do feel like that is a really big chapter. And for some reason, it feels like a really big deal. And I think that every time you move into like a new decade in your age, it's a big deal. When we go from 19 to 20, that's a big deal, being in your 20s. And when we're at that tipping edge of 29, getting ready to turn 30, that's also a big deal. There's thoughts and things that you start to think about as we move into these new ages within our life that become more prominent or that become more important. And so for me now, getting ready to turn 40, knowing that I'm in a position in my life where literally everything around me had been completely obliterated and torn down to dust, and I am in a phase of rebuilding, there's a lot of things that need to be shed and that need to be let go. And I feel very ready to step through new doors in my life. But then that's also like a very scary place and phase to be in as well. The fact that we are in an eclipse season and the fact that the eclipse is coming up, when I think about the way that this eclipse is lining up with where I am currently in my life, once again, I'm just mind blown at how beautifully orchestrated the power, the all that is, God's source energy is so much bigger than anything that we can even think or imagine in our minds. Michael A. Bryan is an astrologer that I really enjoy listening to his podcast. And one thing that he said that really stuck with me and that I really hold near and dear to my heart is the fact that astrology shows us that we are not just some accident. We're not some random mistake that was just plopped here on earth to, live these random lives. We are, in fact, very perfectly crafted, orchestrated beings. And we are here for a really divine and unique purpose. And that all the things that have happened within our lives, whether we perceive them as good or bad, have all been divinely orchestrated, and that we are held by hands that are bigger and greater than our own. And I really loved that because sometimes we can go through really awful, awful things. And the things that we go through in our lives really do genuinely set the tone for how we end up moving forward, for the decisions and the choices that we make in our lives. Oftentimes, when we fall on hard times, it's kind of like, where is God? I don't see God. How could God let this happen to us? And even to the point where certain circumstances within our lives can cause us to really be angry with God. And all of those things are okay. It's okay to question. It's okay to feel and express that you are angry with God. But the reality in that is, astrology has been a really unique tool in my healing journey as far as helping me to understand and see that things are beautifully and divinely orchestrated, and that all of these things are leading to something unique and purposed and destined for me and for each and every one of us. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And in that, it's interesting because in this last week, I have been really up and down emotionally. And this doesn't have anything to do with turning 40. This is quite literally just, I have been completely and utterly in my feels. And a part of it is I'm getting ready to head into a season of time for me that is really heavy. And that is the approaching of all of the dates that started this whole grief journey for me. We're approaching the 2-year anniversary of my spouse's passing, and this is a heavy space. I didn't know how I was going to react or how I was going to be moving through that time. And I think that when you are grieving, you really don't know how you're going to move through any of it until it approaches. And so as 2 years is approaching, I don't feel as anxious as I did when the 1-year anniversary was approaching. But I also am very keenly aware that the body keeps the score. So my mood is beginning to shift a little bit, and I am recognizing that I need to step back and slow down and really begin to honor the space that I am in. And so that means resting. That means taking time to slow down. And so it perfectly lines up with this eclipse. But this week has been such just an emotional space. And in that, I had my first grapple with what I would call a very mild ideation. And this has never really happened to me before. I am usually very stable in mind. And I was really just having this moment of feeling like, what is the point? What is the point of any of this? Like, what is the point? Like, why am I here? Feeling as if everything that I'm doing is not amounting to the things that maybe I wish it was amounting to. Somehow feeling like I'm not in the place where I'm supposed to be. Somehow feeling worthless. And worthless was literally the word that came out of my mouth. That I felt worthless in that moment. And my question was, what is even the point? And very quickly, I told myself, Addie, snap the hell out of it. Like, stop, gather yourself. And obviously, my children. I am a mother of 4 children, and they are my literal reasons for continuing and carrying on and working on my mental health and my wellness and my well-being. And even more so, now that I am their only parent, I feel a really heavy pressure to make sure that I'm caring for myself in a way that keeps me healthy and that keeps me mentally stable and that keeps me okay. There are a lot of people who are not in their right mind. I used to have a pastor who would always, when she would pray, one of the things that she would always pray is for a sound mind, or she would always give thanks for a sound mind. And I never really fully grasp why that was so important and how important that was. But I think that being of a sound mind is one of the most important things that we can pray for over our lives, because when we are not of sound mind, the decisions and the choices, again, that we make become very foggy and they become very diluted, and we can end up doing and saying and just being in really rough spaces and making really awful choices. So after this moment of just sheer feeling down in the dumps, and I was definitely sad. I was in my feels. I was journaling. I was writing everything down in the notes app on my phone about what was going on and just kind of how I was feeling in the moment. And I decided to shift my perspective in that space. And shifting the perspective meant stop thinking about how worthless I feel right now because of where I'm not, and start to make a gratitude list, or at best, a list of the things that I feel like I have done and the things that I feel like I have accomplished in this last 2 years. It ended up being really beautiful because, as I am led, if you listened to episode 2 of this vlogcast, I was watching a podcast episode called A Good Cry, and it was an episode that had Lauren London on it. And as I'm listening to this podcast episode, one of the things that she was asked was about how she is moving through her grief, and how she is like a light and a beacon for other people. And one of the things that she said was that she didn't feel like she was, that although she may appear to be strong on the outside, and she may appear to be like she's moving through this so gracefully to other people, that to her, she still felt like a mess. 2 years later, after the loss of her beloved, like, she still feels like a mess. And I immediately could relate with that, because in the moment of feeling so low, that's how I felt. Like, right now, I'm still a mess. However, I had to give credit where credit was due and look at the fact that from day one, I've been sharing this journey. I've been talking about how I feel. I've been writing and moving through this process. I found a community of people that I am able to share and talk with. I've created a support group for people. I've done 13 weeks of casual conversations on Livestream where we have been able to talk about grief in an open and very casual way, bring enlightenment and education to the whole process. I have made multiple videos expressing different things that I've researched, things that I've looked up. There's been many, many, many comments that have come into me that have thanked me for sharing this process, that have thanked me for putting words to the way that they have not been able to put words to their own feelings for. I've created 2 journals that I've put out into the world that are for sale on Amazon for people who are grieving. So I am doing things. I am moving through this process. But in that moment, it really didn't feel like it. And so when I think about all of that, and then we bring that into the fact that it is an eclipse today, and it is an eclipse in the sign of Pisces, which represents the 12th sign of the zodiac. And Pisces in the 12th house is representing those things that are hidden, the depth, going deep inside of ourselves. It represents the things that hurt us, the things that are like literally unknown to us. Pisces is representing emotions. It is a water sign, and it's a highly emotional water sign. So I recognize that my emotions are right on par. It's been a very emotional week, but Pisces is also the last sign of the zodiac, which represents endings. It represents a shedding. It represents the end before a new birth, the end before a new beginning. And that is also very significant for an eclipse, because that is also the energy of eclipses. Eclipses are great endings, but great new beginnings. And they are a process that we really can't stop, that we have to move with the ebbs and flows. It is destined things that are going to occur in our lives that often will change the trajectory of how life is flowing. And this is a North Node eclipse, so this is for the better. This is for forward motion. This is for moving forward. Full moons, on the other hand, represent culminations. They illuminate, they bring to the surface the things that might have been hidden in the darkness, because the light is at its fullness. Full moons represent endings and closings and completions. And so right now, this is a time of completion. In whatever area Pisces represents in your chart, we are completing a cycle right now. This is the closing of something major in life, but the opening and the beginning of something brand new. And so as I just swirl all of that around in my head, it really just feels like a really big moment right now. And even in the world, we can look around right now. It's election season. Things are shifting and changing. Things are shaking up. History is in the making, quite literally some of the craziest history of all time right now. So this is a great time to be alive. It's just a really big deal. And so wonder if you are feeling the same energy as well, that you're on the verge of something great, but something has to shed, right? We have to let go of things that are of old. We have to release and let go of things that are old, releasing and letting go of the things that might be holding us back. And even if this is just mental things, things in your emotional space, things in your emotional body, things in your mental state that we have to allow to come up to the surface with the light of this moon so that we can purge and release and really let go, because this is final. What we are letting go of right now is finite. This is the end. Anything that's been holding, anything that's been tugging, like these things that have been on us for probably potentially quite some time, it's closing. This is it. For me specifically, Pisces is my 10th whole sign house. And so this is about public image. This is about career. This is about who I am in the world and what I do. This is about how I am showing up and moving forward in what I'm purposed to do and how I'm seen by the public. And this is opposing the energy of Virgo in the opposite house, which would be the 4th house for me. And that is all about the depth. That is all about the home, the family, the roots. The 4th house is representing where we come from. It's representing the deep emotional landscaping of who we are. And so this, I think, for me becomes this balance of home and work. This becomes a balance of outer life versus inner life. And so everything really feels in alignment right now. And it is my hope for you that things are feeling in alignment. It is my hope for you that during this particular eclipse season that you are able to recognize the things that need to go and allow yourself to surrender to the process of letting things go. If you've been feeling like things are shaken up, if you've been feeling heavy, if you've been feeling emotional, if you've been feeling like something big or major or something that you can't quite put your finger on is right there at the surface and you just can't really put your finger on what is happening, I want you to please understand that all of this perfectly aligned in divine timing. And no matter what it might be looking like on the outside, everything is going to be beautiful and everything is going to be okay. So this beautiful, watery, full moon eclipse season is just a time to rest and surrender and get ready for a new beginning. Get ready for a new era. Get ready for that new chapter. And again, like it just, as I think about my own life and the alignment of how this all flows, this is all really perfect, like a beautiful surrendering and a letting go just before stepping into a brand new chapter and a brand new era. And letting go of things is painful and letting go of things is emotional. But new beginnings are also beautiful and new beginnings can be really, really exciting. And I am ready for a new beginning and I am wishing you well on your new journeys and your new beginnings as well. Thank you guys for joining me on today's vlogcast. You can also check this out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and anywhere you listen to your podcasts. If this was valuable for you or entertaining in the least bit of a way, feel free to put a like on this video, drop a comment below. Let me know what you are releasing with this full moon energy. Let me know what you are releasing with this eclipse. And I will see you guys next week in episode 4.